Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we are zeroing in on a company that sits squarely at the nexus of artificial intelligence and critical public infrastructure. We are talking about Rekor Systems, a leader in AI-powered roadway intelligence. The central question for today's analysis is straightforward, but, well, it's pretty loaded. Is Rekor Systems a good time to buy now? This company is leveraging AI to fundamentally transform transportation infrastructure, but it's definitely a high volatility stock. We are synthesizing the latest fundamental data, technical indicators, and some massive recent news events to help you assess this high-stakes opportunity. Before we jump into the details, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and leave a comment on this analysis. And hey, if you have a specific company you'd like us to analyze next, drop that request in the comments below. We do read them.
Yeah, and our mission today is absolutely critical because the sources we've looked at present a picture of extreme transition. We're moving beyond just the surface facts here. We need to sort through some conflicting analyst views and, frankly, pretty complex financial data to give you clarity on the company's crucial shift toward recurring revenue. This pivot isn't just a buzzword. It's really the key to understanding its long-term valuation potential and, its current risk profile.
Okay, let's unpack the core business first then. What exactly is AI-powered roadway intelligence, and why is this transition they're undergoing causing such a fundamental valuation rethink among investors?
Right. So Rekor Systems provides the tech that essentially digitizes and smartens up old infrastructure. Think about it like this. They use AI and high-speed cameras to do everything from real-time traffic management and incident detection to accurately collecting vehicle data. And that data is vital for planning future infrastructure spending. Now, the transition, the strategic pivot everyone's watching, is moving away from traditional sort of lump sum, project-based work, build a system for one county, get paid once, to a true SaaS-driven recurring revenue stream, software as a service.
That sounds great on paper, definitely. But governmental entities are, let's be honest, historically slow to adopt subscription models. So why is this shift so important for investors, and what makes it so challenging?
Well, it's important because recurring revenue is predictable, it's usually high margin, and therefore it commands significantly higher valuation multiples in the market. I mean, the market will pay 5, 10, maybe even 15 times revenue for predictable SaaS companies,
Right.
but maybe only 2 or 3 times revenue for traditional lower margin project businesses. It's a huge difference. The challenge is exactly what you mentioned, the sales cycle. Selling software subscriptions to government departments, that often means really long negotiations, sometimes political maneuvering, and long lag times between signing a deal and actually recognizing that revenue.
Yeah, that's a waiting game.
It's the battle of patience, exactly.
And we see that battle reflected directly in the Q2 2025 numbers we analyzed, don't we? Gross revenue was $12.4 million. That's nearly flat year over year. It did show a rebound from the immediate prior quarter, Q1, but it certainly isn't explosive growth yet.
That's the true insight here, I think. Q2 confirmed that while the market is betting heavily on the future high-margin SaaS model, the immediate past, that project revenue model, is stagnating. The company is essentially trying to run 2 systems at once, which helps explain why the stock's volatility remains so high, despite the clear strategic direction.
And this strategic tension, this sort of friction, leads us right to the fundamental challenge that analysts continuously highlight.
Absolutely. What's fascinating, or maybe concerning, depending on your view, is that despite this aggressive future-looking strategy, the company remains structurally unprofitable. They are suffering from persistent net losses and significant ongoing cash burn. Analysts consistently spotlight those negative profit margins as the biggest hurdle.
So the potential's there, but it costs a lot to get there.
Exactly. The pivot has high potential, but it comes at a high cost of capital right now.
Okay, but this is where the narrative seems to dramatically shift, moving from, let's say, challenging strategy to concrete execution. The sources are buzzing about monumental recent contract news. What just happened in October 2025 that has investors treating it like a possible inflection point?
Yeah, the biggest news flash by far, and the single largest catalyst for the stock recently, was the announcement in October 2025 that Rekor Systems won its largest contract ever. It's a multi-year agreement with the Georgia Department of Transportation, the GDOT.
And this isn't just another small regional deal, right?
Right.
We need to talk size and scope here.
Correct. This is a big one. The agreement has a floor, a minimum value of $50 million, and a ceiling that could potentially exceed $100 million over its 7-year term. It involves deploying their Discover platform across the state for AI-enabled analytics and traffic data.
Wait a minute, though. Let me push back slightly. If the core investment thesis is that Rekor is moving to a pure-play, SaaS model. Doesn't a massive 7-year, $50 to $100 million state contract risk looking like a relapse into that old project-based work? I mean, does this introduce new execution risk rather than just pure SaaS scale?
That's a really critical point for you, the listener, to consider. And the sources do emphasize this. While it's a large upfront commitment, the revenue recognition is expected to be spread out and tied to service delivery, making it closer to a hybrid SaaS model than, say, a traditional build and walk away project.
Okay, so it's structured differently.
Right. And perhaps more importantly, it validates their technology on a massive scale. That's huge.
Tell us more about the technical requirements mentioned in the contract, specifically the FHWA compliant traffic data. Why is that compliance so important, and how does it relate to Rekor's competitive advantage?
Good question. FHWA stands for the Federal Highway Administration. Compliance means the data Rekor collects meets specific federal standards. These standards are required for any state or local agency that receives federal transportation funds.
Ah, so it unlocks federal money flows.
Precisely. By winning this GDOT contract and proving compliance, Rekor establishes a really powerful competitive moat. They can now go to virtually every other state DOT and municipal agency with a federally validated large-scale deployment already under their belt. It's a massive proof point that could dramatically shorten future sales cycles.
Makes sense.
And we also see a clever structural element here in the contract. It includes cooperative purchasing terms.
What does that mean in practice?
It means other smaller municipalities within Georgia can adopt the solution easily, sort of piggybacking on the main contract. This significantly increases the contract's potential ceiling without Rekor having to go out and bid on, 30 smaller contracts individually.
Smart. Okay, so the sources also highlight improved financial discipline alongside these big wins. It wasn't just about top-line potential then.
No, and that's vital for the turnaround story. Management seems focused on cutting bloat. Operating expenses were slashed by a solid 17%, both quarter over quarter and year over year. Now that's tough work in a growing tech company, and it showed immediate results in the numbers. The adjusted EBITDA loss narrowed by $2 million. That's a clear signal of improved operational efficiency and focus.
Okay, positive signs on the cost side too.
Definitely. And rounding out the operational picture, we saw other positive news too, like extension agreements with agencies like the Central Texas Regional Mobility Authority and expansion of their data as a service offerings throughout the Sun Belt.
So the picture forming is one of genuine momentum, albeit maybe costly momentum still.
That's a good way to put it. Costly, but momentum seems to be building.
So if the momentum is building, what does that actually mean for the balance sheet and maybe more pressingly for many listeners, for the stock price right now?
Okay, looking at the financials, the current ratio is 1.4. Now, for listeners, a current ratio of 1.0 means assets just barely cover short-term debt. So 1.4 is adequate, suggesting the company has sufficient short-term liquidity.
But not flush with cash.
Exactly, certainly not swimming in cash. And those recurring losses continue to pressure the balance sheet. However, there was a major confidence signal from management recently. They terminated their at-the-market equity offering, the ATM.
Right. For our listeners who might not be familiar, what exactly is an ATM offering and why is terminating it seen as a positive sign?
Sure. An ATM, or at-the-market offering, basically allows a company to continuously sell new shares directly into the public market over time. It's often used to raise quick cash when needed, but it causes shareholder dilution, meaning each existing share represents a smaller piece of the pie. So by terminating the ATM, management is essentially telling the market, look, we're confident that our current cash reserves and our expected revenue trajectory, especially with this GDOT contract coming online, will sustain us for now. We don't need to aggressively dilute our existing shareholders at these prices.
So it's a vote of internal confidence.
It's a massive vote of internal confidence, yes.
Now let's talk price action. The stock is, well, highly volatile. It traded between $1.57 and $2.33 in just the first week of October 2025 alone. That screams speculative growth, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That volatility is pretty standard for a stock waiting for a major transition like the SaaS pivot to be validated by the numbers. The stock did surge almost 15% immediately following the GDOT contract news on October 7th. And technical signals show it recently traded above its 50-day simple moving average, or SMA, which was at $1.30, and its 200-day SMA at $1.29.
Okay, trading above those key moving averages is generally seen as a bullish signal. But for our listeners, what does it mean when the 50-day and 200-day averages are only separated by a single penny like that?
Yeah, that's a great observation. It means the stock has just barely crawled over that technical finish line. It doesn't mean it's running away with a strong lead. It indicates very limited established trend strength. The price has only recently emerged from what was likely a consolidated lower trading range. So it's a breakout, yes, but you could argue it's a fragile one.
So momentum is there, but maybe not deeply rooted yet.
Precisely. Momentum is present, but it hasn't been validated over a long period. The Relative Strength Index, the RSI, stood at 56.6 Cs recently, which confirms this moderate bullish momentum. It's not yet overheated or overbought, but the market is clearly reacting positively to the news flow.
And you can really see how uncertain the market still is by looking at the analyst forecasts, right?
Yeah.
They're just wildly divergent for late 2025.
Wildly divergent is the right word. Some models are projecting an average price target way up near $6.34, suggesting incredible upside potential, while others are forecasting a tight channel way down around $1.88. This huge range is a clear indicator that investors are heavily debating whether this GDOT contract is a true turning point or maybe just a temporary spike.
Given that massive divergence, the next 3 months seem absolutely critical.
Yeah.
What specific events should listeners be watching for to maybe validate one side of that trade or the other?
Yeah, the next quarter is key. There are 3 critical near-term catalysts to watch. First, the Q3 2025 earnings, which are expected around October 24th. Now, this report probably won't include much, if any, GDOT revenue yet, but investors really need to see continued progress on that $2 million EBITDA improvement we talked about, and crucially, sustained expense control. They need to show they're sticking to that discipline.
Makes sense. And second, when do we actually start to see the financial impact of that huge Georgia deal show up in the reports?
That visibility is expected around November 15th, 2025. That's when we should see the first major Georgia DOT revenue recognition. This will be the first quantifiable sign of that contract's contribution, moving it from just a headline into an actual financial line item on the books.
Okay, so eyes on mid-November for that.
Definitely. And finally, something broader. Institutional attention. Keep an eye on the Q4 13F institutional disclosures. Those usually happen around December 22nd.
Could you briefly explain what those 13F disclosures are and why that date matters for a stock like Rekor?
Sure. A 13F is a quarterly regulatory filing that large investment managers think big hedge funds, mutual funds, pension funds, institutions must file with the SEC. It basically tells the public which stocks they bought and sold during the previous quarter. So if significant institutional accumulation is happening in Rekor following the GDOT contract win, this disclosure will significantly increase the stock's visibility and help legitimize that narrative shift we've been discussing. It's how you track whether the quote-unquote smart money is getting involved.
Got it. Okay, let's flip to the risks now. What are the key elements that could potentially derail this entire turnaround story? Because the upside seems clear, but the risks must be significant too.
Oh, the risks are profound, absolutely. And they are mostly company-specific, at least for now. Number 1 is simply the profitability challenge. Persistent net losses and those negative margins remain the most pressing risk. Without a clear path to profitability, the high-flying valuation metrics are ultimately meaningless.
Right.
And that leads directly to the second major risk, cash burn. Aggressive cash use necessitates further capital raises down the line if things don't go perfectly. If Rekor doesn't hit its revenue targets precisely on time, or if expenses creep back up, they could be forced back to the market to raise money, risking significant shareholder dilution even after terminating that ATM recently.
Okay, so cash runway is still a concern.
Okay.
And finally, you mentioned execution before.
Exactly, the significant execution risk. The successful scaling of the SaaS revenue shift, turning that massive GDOT contract win into high-margin, predictable services that can actually scale across other states, that is still entirely unproven at this scale. They have to transition from being a company that wins big projects to being a world-class technology executioner. That's a different skill set.
That's a great point.
And look, we can't forget the broader sector risk either. Competition from much larger tech and infrastructure firms deciding to enter the AI roadway intelligence space could quickly challenge Rekor's current first-mover advantage.
Like a Google or an AWS deciding this is interesting.
Precisely. If a major tech giant decides to focus their considerable AI capabilities here, Rekor faces, frankly, existential pressure.
Okay, so putting it all together, what does this all mean? We've analyzed the stock with clear, high-risk, high-volatility characteristics, but it also has a monumental new contract, a compelling strategic pivot towards size, and signs of significant operational tightening. It feels like the next 90 days are the ultimate proving ground.
That sums it up well. The sources we reviewed unanimously suggest Rekor Systems offers a classic high-risk, high-reward profile right now. Success really depends entirely on execution following this GDOT contract. If they manage to validate the turnaround with strong Q3 numbers, show sustained discipline, and then demonstrate clear revenue recognition from Georgia starting in November, the stock could fundamentally shift into a different category for investors. So for you, the listener, trying to define your approach, your investment horizon is absolutely key here. Based on the sources, this stock currently looks attractive primarily for aggressive, risk-tolerant investors who are looking for event-driven trades around the expected earnings reports and upcoming news flow.
So shorter-term, catalyst-focused traders.
Exactly. However, long-term investors, those looking to build foundational positions, should probably await clearer evidence of sustainable profitability and proof of scaled SaaS traction, real proof they are successfully moving away from just winning projects before committing larger amounts of capital.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, let's leave you with a final thought to mull over. The sources mention significant speculative buzz surrounding potential future catalysts, things like large federal infrastructure grants potentially flowing their way, or even increasing M&A interest from those larger infrastructure or tech firms we mentioned. Given that the current price volatility already reflects some extremely high-end forecasts, as you pointed out, how much of that current valuation might already be baked in, reflecting these exciting but still unconfirmed future opportunities? That's something to keep in mind as you watch those upcoming earnings and institutional flow announcements over the next few months.